she's the Minneapolis captain, and she does so much for CPI. She's so dedicated. She's out there sometimes by herself, leading rallies to support Maduro, to support anti-imperialism. She's written a book about Ibrahim Traore, translated some of her writings. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal person, a great organizer. I'd like to invite her. She's going to tell us a little bit about what CPI is about.
All right. Thank you, Noah, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. So let me, first of all, thank you guys for taking the time away from your busy schedules, and taking a moment to get away from the wild news cycle and from the abundance of lassitude and hopelessness and rage that is pumped through your phones. So as Noah said, I am Penny Arcos. I'm the regional captain for Minnesota. And I'm going to be sharing with you the history of the Center for Political Innovation. Who are we and where are we going? If you don't know where you came from, then you don't know where you're going. So first of all, how did I get involved? During the pandemic, my son Angel turned 18. And during the George Floyd riots, it was very, very difficult to understand what was going on. And the city was burned down. My son's job was looted. And then you had the COVID lockdowns, and no jobs anywhere. And how do you start your life as a new adult, right? And everything that had given us a sense of community and belonging and meaning in our lives, like fixing bikes at Cycles for Change and selling them on Craigslist, playing guitar in youth group at church, and I got to be a part of it. And being a part of a community outreach at the light rail, we would pass out fresh bread, and we would play guitar and sing songs, and people were just blessed by the music in their busy day as they were getting on the light rail. And it was all just ripped away from us during the lockdowns, the endless lockdowns. And then my mom, the most precious woman you will ever meet, was no longer able to take care of herself in Illinois. And she came up here with her whole life in 2 duffel bags. And I was like, that's it? That's it? That's all there is to life? You work, you raise a kid, you take a few vacations, and then you hope someone can take care of you at the end of your life. And I had to scramble to figure out how I was going to take care of her. And I couldn't take care of her, and it was traumatizing. And then I had to scramble through the healthcare system and the insurance red tape and figure out how to get the right care for her. And so I'm here to honor her right now. And then the siege on Gaza began. And then the war in Ukraine began. And as I saw a kid in Ukraine that looked just like my son, I was terrified because I wondered, what if Biden or whoever was running the country at the time decided to call up a draft and drag my son onto the front lines to start a nuclear war with Russia? What am I going to do? And in my search for answers, people that I respected, friends and family members, the only thing they could say was, well, America has a middle class, Russian oligarchs. And I wanted to know why are we spending billions of dollars for foreign wars to start a nuclear war against Russia? And why are we spending billions of dollars to blow up babies in the Middle East? I thought we were pro-life, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to believe in? So one of my friends from a former church, one of her responses was, well, when the Lord returns, Jerusalem, wait. So you mean to tell me that my son and I marched around the Minnesota Capitol year after year in the middle of February, froze our tushies off to save the babies, and now it's God's will to blow up babies in the Middle East because Jesus Christ is coming to town. Can you explain that to my son? I thought so. So then I went to the DNC convention in August. I was trying to figure out what can we do about this? I've been to these marches and they're not even on the news. Millions of people go to march and nothing happens. The war keeps going. And so I went to a Jill Stein event and when I was in Chicago, I was at the Mexican Art Museum and I met Gabby and Phil. Raise your hand, Phil. Yep, and Gabby was the one that was checking you in. They were passing out books at the Mexican Art Museum. I said, hey, I've seen them on Caleb's channel. And they invited me to an upcoming workshop in October that was titled, Why Are They Taking Us to War? Why are they taking us to war? They want to sell weapons. Why else? But Caleb explained how capitalists need constant war to open up new markets and to support the military-industrial complex. And he also explained a 4-point plan that CPI has to rescue our economy and to build the peace bridge and to end the wars and rebuild America. So I was curious and I kept digging. And when I got home, I was inspired by Jose Vega. I don't know if you're familiar with him in New York. Jose Vega does all these interventions. He's here. Where's Jose? I was inspired by Jose Vega and all his interventions, especially against AOC and all the Democrats. So I intervened on Ilhan Omar at a town hall. And I had tried to confront her many times about the Ukraine war, and she wouldn't listen. So I got up there. We would like to know, as American people, why you continue to support sending billions of taxpayer dollars to Nazis in Ukraine to start a nuclear war with Russia. China is not our enemy.
I need you to leave, please, ma'am.
China's not our enemy. Russia's not our enemy.
Walk out, please.
No more money for rich men's wars.
Take your stuff and
No
walk,
more
please.
money for rich men's
Grab
wars. No more money for rich men's wars. No more money for rich men's wars. No more money for rich men's wars.
Point.
Money for rich men's wars.
It's a good point, Democrats.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Hennepin County Commissioner Irene Fernandez.
No more money for rich men's wars. I was out of there in 45 seconds. That's all I lasted. It's 45 seconds. So that's how I got involved. And I've been building a team since then. We had a workshop in February and got interrupted by crazy protesters, but it's been a great experience. And I get my family involved as well, my mom and my son. And so to understand Center for Political Innovation, you need to understand Caleb's background first. So I'm going to give you a little history on Caleb before I get into the history of the CPI. Caleb has always stood for justice and solidarity in his life. When he was young, his mom was a librarian, and he joined his mom on the picket line to protest for security guards at the library, even though her library already had security guards. That's what solidarity is about. It's not just about you. And so when he was in college, he witnessed police brutality against 2 African-American girls who were protesting at their high school about budget cuts. And his video was used in court and acquitted the girls against the charges that were raised against them. So you see, it's about solidarity. It's not about you. And also in his search for truth, Caleb studied the successes of economies like Russia and China and Cuba and Nicaragua, and all the lies that we've been told that it's all a failure, it never works. But he learned and he studied and he wanted to know more. So in 2007, he joined the Workers' World Party to protest the Ohio death row and the Iraq War. In 2010, they relocated Caleb to New York City, and he ended up being a part of Occupy Wall Street, and he joined the International Action Center and became a spokesperson for a world-renowned human rights advocate, former Attorney General Ramsey Clark. Then 2011, Obama bombed Libya, the most prosperous country in Africa. They had a great man-made river, the irrigation project, all across Libya. And people from all around Africa could come and get a job and have a stipend for starting a family and money for education. And when that happened, the World Workers' Party was very, very weak. They did almost nothing to support Gaddafi. They were more worried about catering to the Democrats, while at the same time, working class people stood with Gaddafi because they understand he was fighting the same international global cabal that is grinding nations into poverty, this international banking system that is like a big giant casino, basically. It's not real money. So now, what is it? It's now an open-air slave market, and thousands of people drown in the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea, trying to get away. Libya before freedom, Libya after freedom. That was the turning point for Caleb. That was it. So Caleb began a journey around the world as a journalist to find out the truth about other countries and what's really going on. In 2013, he attended the World Youth Festival in Quito, Ecuador, and he was very impressed by the professionality of delegates from Cuba, China, Vietnam, and the DPRK. In 2014, he went to Iran, and he met anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist organizers, and he learned about their economy that's called not capitalism, but Islam, or the resistance economy. And it's a lot like socialism with Chinese characteristics. And you can compare it to the destructive forces of lightning versus the harnessed electricity. Lightning, what does it do? Come down, strike a tree, the tree falls on your house. It strikes where it will, and it's not a good thing. And when you harness that electricity, you can power your home. You can charge your cell phone. We got lights here, right? And it serves you. So Frederick Engels wrote, I'm going to kind of summarize, but he wrote in his book, Socialism, Utopian and Scientific, social anarchy of production gives place to a social regulation of production with a definite plan to serve the needs of the community and the individual. So you got lightning and you got harnessed electricity. You got the anarchy of capitalism and imperialism, globalism, or a planned economy that serves the community and serves the people. So in 2015, Caleb risked his life on a Red Crescent mission to Yemen with a bunch of doctors from Iran and volunteers. And Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hodeidah to stop them, and it created an international scandal. But on that boat, Caleb was discussing his faith and their faith with these Iranians, and he reconnected with his Christian faith, which he was previously ashamed of, and they told him to be proud of his heritage. And also he reconnected with his abolitionist heritage. He's a descendant of the great Reverend Charles Finney, who was part of the Second Great Awakening in America, which is a mass movement of Christians against slavery. And that's what we are, a movement not just of Christians, but whatever faith you have. I'm still on my own faith journey, to break the system of imperialism, globalism, and to lift the world out of slavery of the anarchy of the market. So also he went to Venezuela and experienced Bolivarian socialism firsthand. And back home, when the Workers' World Party could not comprehend the success of Venezuela, Caleb said that's enough. And he launched his own study group called Students and Youth for a New America. In 2018, he attended the Alternatives to Globalism conference, and he discussed 21st century anti-imperialism. And the Russiagate was at its height. The internet was Alex Reed Ross, who was part of the Democratic Socialists of America, supposed to be a good guy, right? Socialism, a CIA asset, decided to publish a hit piece on Caleb in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, just to prove that Caleb was fascist. So we're not just trying to look cool on the internet. We're teaching working families why our system is failing us and what we can do about it. How can we change it? We publish books, we do webinars, we do workshops, but some of the books that we've published, the first one was the Green Book, which is Gaddafi's economic plan for Libya. BreadTube. BreadTube serves imperialism. Caleb wrote this and exposed the British and CIA intelligence behind the quote-unquote socialist streamers on YouTube. That made a big impact. Where's America Going? Marxism, MAGA, and the Coming Revolution is published in Chinese, and it's available on the Chinese mainland. Trotsky and the neoconservatives, the whole story. It was #1 on Amazon in Radical Thought for 3 weeks. Get a copy of that. Yeah. The Houthis. Houthis are heroes. Yeah. Who are the Houthis? What are they fighting for? We've passed out over 1,000 of these at pro-Palestine events. And recently, Caleb and Noah went to a PSL event, and they got kicked out for passing these books out. You know. So yeah, they really support the Houthis, don't they? Khrushchevism. Study in psychological warfare. We are having study groups across the country and even in Australia about the psychological warfare that began during the Cold War against mass movements. And we are bracing ourselves to strengthen ourselves and understand the tactics that the intelligence uses to break up mass movements. A lot of books. So then, ¿qué es el innovacionismo? What is innovationism? We got it translated into Spanish now, so if you have any Spanish friends, you can pick up a copy there. And, sorry, lots of books. Africa's Flame, The Rise of Ibrahim Traoré. This is my book. Yeah. This is my book. I have a display over here about the projects. It's all in the end of the book, 3 Years of Sovereignty, but you can see the pictures and read about the projects they've done with industrializing and agriculture. And it's called Faso Mebo, where they're paving the roads. They're building an expressway between Bobo Dioulasso and Ouagadougou, which is the capital and the second largest city. And the education, patriotism for the kids, and it's just amazing what they're doing. And it's endogenous development. They nationalize their gold mines, and they're focusing on endogenous development of agriculture and industry of all kinds to support economic sovereignty. Because if you can't depend on your own country to make food, then you're dependent on the imperialists who want to destroy you. So hands off to Ibrahim Traoré. So picture in your mind, what would America look like? What would the world look like if American leaders invested in building our country instead of bombing everyone else's country and installing puppet regimes all around the world? Just picture that. That's why we're here, because we have that vision. So what can we do? Who are we, right? We're just little people, right? No, we are building a mass movement. What can we do to move our country in that direction? So I'm going to give you a glimpse into what CPI has already been doing since 2021. Hold on, it's going to be a fire hose of information, but it's important to know what we've done, because we're not just messing around the internet and rigging the algorithms. We are out here, a real life organization, making friends, and we really want to end the wars and rebuild America. So since 2021, we've been on the ground taking action with workshops and webinars and little conventions like this. We're trying to teach people to get past the red team, blue team agenda and to unite with working families around the world to end U.S. imperialist aggression. In 2022, opposition to the Ukraine proxy war was our main priority. When the African People's Socialist Party, Uhuru, thank you, Lisa. When the Uhuru offices and homes were raided by the FBI, they were threatened with 15 years in jail and hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines for being quote unquote Russian agents for a thought crime. And we were the first, CPI was the first one on the ground to invite them to a conference, honor them as heroes, because we understand if the FBI can go after them for thought, for thinking, for opposing U.S. imperialism that's trying to crush Russia, then they can come after us too. And so, because of that, blackmailers threatened the volunteers and the attendees, but the conference went ahead anyways. And it was featured in Newsweek. How about that? And important influential people like Tara Reid and Garland Nixon were able to attend. And yeah, and Tara Reid knows Tucker Carlson, and because of that, Chairman Amali was on Tucker Carlson's show. It snowballs. It just snowballs, and that's the importance of getting together like this, because we meet each other. So the smear campaign went ahead anyways, and we shut down CPI for a while, and careers dropped out, and we reemerged stronger than ever. And 2023 we're the main voice for peace. In February, we sponsored Rage Against the War Machine with the Libertarian chair, Angela McCurdle, and we had a reception to honor Scott Ritter.
What this man has to say. Scott Ritter is here. Scott Ritter is here. We are proud that Scott Ritter is here. This is a hero. This is a hero right here. We love you, Scott. We love you.
In March, when Biden had his summit for democracy, we had our summit against hypocrisy. In September, a small group of us from CPI confronted Tsai Ing-wen, the puppet president in Taiwan. And she was selling war in our country. And so Caleb and others tried to get out of our country. Stop selling war in our country. China is not our enemy. That's right. And also in September, Caleb interviewed President Ibrahim Raisi, the president of Iran. May he rest in peace. In 2024, CPI stood with our allies to demand an end to imperialist wars. In February, Caleb held a UN press conference to highlight the Uhuru case and the weaponization of FBI against support for Russia. In March, Caleb and Noah went to the World Youth Festival in Sochi, and they also brought up the case of Uhuru with President Putin. And they also asked how we could restore relations between America and Russia. In June, CPI co-sponsored the reunification event, reunification of the Korean Peninsula with the LA Family Church. In August, sorry, gotta get the book. Here's the book. Oh, I think it's up here. Sorry. In August, this book had already been out since 2020. Kamala Harris and the Future of America. And the day that Kamala Harris was crowned the nominee, democracy. No kings, no queens. Forgot, she's not a king, she's a queen. This book was banned on Amazon all of a sudden, the day that she was the nominee. So, social media outrage forced Amazon to restore the book. And Kamala lost. So that was a lot of fun. That really was great. I was like, wow, we can really do something. Wow. So October was my intervention with Ilhan Omar. And December, Caleb and others went to the trial, the free speech trial of the century, to support Uhuru in Tampa, Florida. And we launched our Peace MAGA campaign with a big banner with Trump and Kim Jong-un shaking hands. And only peace can make America great again. And we went to the Trump Tower, New York City Library, and the Madison Square Gardens. 2025, I'm just going to give you a little glimpse because Caleb already published our whole year in review, but we had our busiest year yet. It's amazing what we've done. We continued Peace MAGA at the DC inauguration with a big Peace Bridge banner and the Trump Kim Jong-un banner to highlight the possibility of peace under the Trump administration, not to support Trump or not Trump, but to highlight the possibility of peace, that's what we want people to push for. And the only way that a president can do that is if he has mass support from the population, from the working class. Throughout the year, we held workshops and rallies to support peace talks to end the Ukraine war. April 30, after U.S. AFRICOM was signaling regime change intent in Burkina Faso, we joined an international day of action. I believe Black is Back Coalition did a thing in Chicago as well to support Ibrahim Traore. We marched around the streets with our signs. We said, hands off Africa, hands off Traore, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, hands off Traore, hands off Uhuru. In October, this was so fun. We crashed the No King Circus. And yes, it was great. And we marched around with our signs. In Minnesota, they were standing around, bouncing around with their Garfield costumes and hippopotamus and frogs and you name it. And I was out there with a big banner of Maduro. It said, hands off Venezuela. There was one lady there that had another sign, hands off Venezuela. Everyone else was like, shut up, up. And you're being disrespectful. And I said, it's disrespectful to invade another country. That's right. Right? So now where are we? Where are we? Because these clowns did not support, just clowns. They don't support Maduro until the day after he was kidnapped. Oh, hands off Venezuela. And now the Republicans can say, hey, you said no kings, and now he's supposedly a dictator and a king. So we are consistent. We are against imperialism, globalism. We stand with anti-imperialist leaders around the world. We stand with Uhuru and Black is Back. They are our heroes. So now my family and I participate with members of our community in these peace rallies. And we write songs and we sing songs about building the peace bridge. My mom's legacy is the last song that she did is, we've been working on the peace bridge all the live long day. And we did that at her nursing home with her nursing home staff in front of the Christmas tree. And so that's her legacy. So what does this have to do with you? Like I said, we're not an internet fandom. We exist to carry out operations around the country, and even in Australia. We have a member in Australia. The threat of a new world war is hanging over our heads like a Damocles sword. And we are going to resist the threat of a low-wage police state. We want to rebuild America and end the wars. So we're not trying to revive the Soviet Union. We don't identify with the quote-unquote communists, the ones dancing around in hippopotamus and Garfield costumes and burning American flags. We know our country has a dark history, and we admit that, but we also have heroes like John Brown and Caleb's ancestor, the Charles Finney, an anti-slavery movement. And so we, like I said, we admit that there is a dark history, but we want a brighter future for America and for the world. And so you have a choice. You can continue to live your life in your phone, marinating in the lassitude and anger and rage and hopelessness that they feed you every day on your scroll, on your feed, or you can join us. It's not for everybody. It takes work, it takes dedication, but you can make new friends, and you can step out of your comfort zone, and you can take steps to demand that we rebuild America. America is ready. America is ripe. The earth is awakening, and America must join.